right, everybody. So after our GM came back speaking only the Conlang Japosa from the hit movie series Dune, we found out later he overdosed on spice and turned into a weird fish man. He's in a glass tank right now. We gotta find a new GM. So session's canceled.
Yeah, I don't think guild navigators do a lot of GMing.
No, I can't imagine they do it. They'd be no fun to play for because they would just predict everything you've ever done.
True.
You're like, well, mathematically speaking, you roll to attack in this situation 18 out of 25 times. So, realistically speaking, I'm going to lock you into a position where you can't do anything but attack to guarantee the result that I want.
They just do the math so many steps ahead that they just tell you the result of the fight every time.
Yeah. They railroad you mathematically.
Yeah.
That would be so annoying.
Correct.
It'd be like playing for like that guy fucking fedora tipping atheist guy. But like they could consistently tell you that you were wrong and then prove it mathematically.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
What do the guild navigators do with their, like, do they eat? Do they shit? Do they, like, what do they do?
I don't.
What is their life?
I believe, as far as I know, are they fed through tubes? I think they are.
Like, do they do anything? Do they have hobbies? Do they do anything? Or are they just weird fish dudes who do math a lot? And like, that's it. Like, what is that life? And why would you want to be one of them?
I don't know. Because when you're a guild navigator, you are one of the wealthiest people in the universe.
Right, but what do you do with the money?
Well, so before you become a fishman, I guess you have a great time. But eventually you become a fishman.
I was going to say, you're guaranteed to become a fishman. That's like, I don't know that it's worth it.
I mean, look, I can't tell you that it's worth it. I also can't tell you that it's worth it to cover yourself in sand trout and have them slowly assimilate you. Yeah. I can't say that creating a new race of humans that are better than humans is worth having your pee-pee slurped off and then having weird vestigial arms. So
I think you got to specify not having your pee-pee having your pee-pee become shrivel up and be unusable.
Yeah.
Like not just he like got rid of it. That shit shriveled up and wilted like a dead banana. Like that's worse actually. That's a fair
like
how golden is this path, dog? I'm just saying.
A meatless life. Yeah. Truly, all this glitters isn't gold.
That's what I was saying. Like, this seems like a King Midas situation.
And it's even better when he has the like organization of super sexy badass Amazonians. The fish
and
speakers.
he can't bang any of them. Yeah,
can't do anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Truly a nightmarish existence.
Bro built himself a harem for funsies. Like I don't.
Yep.
For the lols.
What is the thing? Is it the pun or it's one of the circles of hell where it's like people are dying of thirst, but every time they go to the water, it recedes. It's literally that.
Yeah. I don't remember, but I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the story precisely, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm just saying, if those are my options for being rich and powerful in the Dune universe, I think I'm good, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I'm good. Dune is like 40K. It's one of those series that it's super cool to read about, but you would not want to fucking live there.
No.
It would be like, so for some places, it probably isn't that ass.
I mean, I guess for certain characters, like I guess Fade's life is solid, I suppose.
He's also avoiding assassination attempts by his brother and his uncle and most of his family, and is actively trying to assassinate his uncle and the rest of his family. Being an Atreides is a dog shit existence.
You mean being a Harkonnen?
No, being an Atreides, because you have to constantly be worried about being assassinated by the fucking Harkonnens.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Like,
yeah,
not a moment of fucking peace.
that's true.
If you're like random goober, it's fine. Like, they're not like fucking...
They're not coming for your
bombs
ass.
in your mailbox. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
there's no collateral damage. It's a hunter-killer drone. That thing's gonna just burn a little hole in your wall and then jab you in the eyeball and then murder you instantly. And they won't find out for like days later. If I'm a normal-ass serf living in the Atreides manor, I'm like, oh, damn.
Damn, Paul's dead. That's crazy.
Yeah, white boy's dead. That's wild.
Yeah, you want to be like Gurney at most.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You want to stop at Gurney's Alex status.
Dude, Gurney has it great. He fucking retires. He leaves Arrakis, retires to Caladan, gets his own castle.
Yeah.
And then he just chills with fucking Jessica for the rest of his life, being like, wow, your son fucked everything up. And she's like, dude, I know.
I mean, you would want to be Duncan. I would say you want to be Duncan, but Duncan in particular goes through a time.
I wouldn't want to be Duncan because technically Duncan dies at Duncan 1 and those rest of them are just fucking clones.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the fucking Soma dilemma of like, is it actually me or is it just a copy pasta?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Let me be a rice a rice farmer on Caladan and let me just be big chillin'.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be on Arrakis, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Fuck everything about being
on
Arrakis.
the lowest level, you got me fucked up if you think I'm gonna wear a still suit and piss and shit myself all day, every day for drinking water. Absolutely not. They describe that the Fremen smell terrible.
Yeah.
Probably because of that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the other option?
Yeah. Well, so to be clear, they smell terrible when they're in their still suits. When like the Fremen outside of their still suits are very clean. Like,
yes, but the still suit is a horrifying junk monstrosity.
Yeah, no, I am absolutely good on that, Chief. Oh, Dune. Oh, Dune.
Oh, Dune.
Wow. So now we probably know what we're talking about, considering that we talked about it last week. Yeah, we're just talking about more Dune, where we're going to go through the second half of the book. We were a little worried that we weren't actually going to be able to clear the second half of the book by the end of today, but good news, chapters 7 and 8 are pretty light, so not a whole lot to worry about.
Yeah.
Like, basically nothing. So we're really just going to go over the basic rules of the game, which, despite being kind of vital to understanding the rest of the game, is not described until chapter 6. And then we're going to talk about 5, sorry. And then we're going to talk about the different conflict types, which is the real meat and potatoes of the game.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this, like I've said many times, this game commits the cardinal sin, but in terms of, in comparison to other games that commit the cardinal sin of putting how to play after character creation, it's not too bad.
No, yeah, and for what you do get, it is pretty solid.
Honestly, the Fabula organization should be the standard, and I really don't understand, not to turn this into like a Fabula Glaze again, but the Fabula organization is intro, rules, make characters, game master stuff, and then bestiary. That should just be your standard. Like, this bullshit. I mean, fucking 5e does it now too, right? The 2024 rules start with how to play. How are we still going back and forth on this? I just don't understand. What is the... This is a stupid rant. I don't... Whatever. What is the merit of having character creation before rules? Like, what is the benefit there? What is the arguments for? Because I just don't... I just haven't heard any good arguments in favor of that stance. I'm gonna be honest.
I really haven't either. I feel like this is they're building for the mysterious titular younger brother character, where it's like, well, they're not going to want to learn the rules. They're going to want to make a character first, but then they're not going to know how to make the character or what any of that shit means unless they read the rules first. So
how do you get excited about making a character when you're making it in a void of no context? Like, I just don't understand it.
It's a bit goofy. Yeah.
It's a whatever.
Especially because the rules for this game are like maybe 20 pages, like 25 pages, if that. They're not very long, and it's probably because they dispersed a lot of that really relevant information across the rest of the entire book, but you know.
You could also create a truncated version. Like, if you really wanted to have character creation towards the beginning of the book, you could make like a truncated version of the rules to sort of give like a general idea and then get into the more complicated shit if you wanted.
Yeah, you can do it's they did it in Fabula. I can't remember what it's called. It's the of course I don't have it like directly available anymore, son of a bitch.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, they have like a little truncated version of the rules.
Oh, you mean the press start guide?
Yeah.
Well, that's a quick start. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying in the core rulebook, if you wanted to have character creation towards the front of the book, you could have a really squished down version of the rules in the core rulebook and then restate the rules more in full later in the book. I don't know that that's worth it, but if you wanted, you could do something like that. Anyway, not important.
Fair enough. Not important. That being said, before we get into things, do us a favor and follow us on your podcast platform of choice, and maybe think of shooting us a dono over at our coffee. Much appreciated. Really, we gotta get Brett some dosh. He's dying. He's not actually. No, that son of a bitch is going to play a gig tomorrow with his band.
He is,
like a loser, and not play in my game of Lancer, which means we're going to have to play Monster Hearts because Brett is a bitch. And I love
Are you
him,
also running the Monster
bitch.
Hearts?
Yeah, so Monster Hearts is pretty much the backup campaign. It's just if we don't have session and like...
I know, but are you running both?
Pretty much, yeah.
Mad lad.
Yeah, look, Monster Hearts is so easy to run. I've told the players, I've told everyone, like, you just have to be okay with sometimes things being a little weird, because I don't plan the Monster Hearts game. What you guys do in a session is directly what I'm just sandboxing it. They do a thing, I follow the principles lead me to make decisions as the characters, they respond, session ends, I go, okay, that was crazy, what do I do now? Like, I didn't plan this out, but at one point I was like, what would be the most drastic thing? A character got kidnapped, people understand that there are monsters, they killed a couple of the bad guys, but not all of them. What if they just did a drive-by kidnapping and then kidnapped one of their friends? And like, spent 2 hours last Thursday being like, okay, so they kidnapped Nana. What's that about? You know what I mean? And is the pacing as good as it probably could be? No, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really give a fuck. This is the backup campaign.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Just usually when people do a backup campaign, somebody else runs the backup campaign.
I wish I would pay, not really, for someone to do a backup campaign for me on Thursdays. I would love that. So I can like play with that group. But no, I am not allotted such a privilege. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting into it, I don't 100% remember where we ended off. So we're just going to start back up at the start of chapter 5, which is rules. What really is there to say at the start of this? It just describes the general rules and rulings of Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, as well as providing some greater details on the multiple, I call them ammunition types, but they're the thingy, they're the doohickeys, the things that allow you to fuck with the rules a little bit.
Meta currencies is how people refer to them usually.
Such meta currencies being momentum, threat, and determination. The rules as you know them are a pretty solid mix of familiar and new, so we'll be bouncing around a little bit throughout the section. To start, Dune as a system, as we probably said last time, relies on a single die for general play, D20. As stated previously, the game works on a dice pool using 2 D20s offered to you by your skills and drives. To achieve success in...
Not exactly. You roll 2 D20, your skill and drive does not determine how many dice you roll.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. I for some reason, I guess in my head, I kept Like, yes, you use two variables to bring together. No, yeah, because you can't actually rule.
No.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. The skill and the drive combine to give you a target number, but you always default to 2d20 unless you spend meta currency to increase that, or you have some ability that increases it. Or advantage or some fictional circumstance or, that kind of shit.
Right. To achieve success in any skill test, the GM will ask for a test using a specific skill, declaring a set number of successes necessary to accomplish a goal. The player will then be able to suggest one of their drives. If this is acceptable, the player will then ask if a focus in said skill can be added. If this is also acceptable, the focus number, which is typically, I believe the game says skill value +2, is added to the... No, is it just skill?
The focus doesn't have a number.
It does. What do you mean?
Focus doesn't have a number.
Focus is
a statement.
Right, but the focus adds a number to your crit range.
No.
Yes.
No, what focus does is it makes it so that whatever the skill you're rolling, your crit range now becomes equal to that skill or lower. So if you have a skill at 6 and you're using a focus in that skill, then your crit range becomes 1 to 6 instead of just 1.
Are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure I read... Hold on.
The skill is the starting number, right? So the skill is 6, and you're getting in a knife fight with a guy, and you have a focus in short blades. Because that focus would apply, then your crit range becomes everything from 1 to 6 because of the focus. If you do not have a focus, you only crit on a 1.
Oh, nope. Okay, no. You are right. Yeah. Any die that rolls equal to or less than their skill is a critical. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
For context, for those wondering, this is a game where rolling low is what you want. It's a roll under system, so 1s are crits, not 20s.
Yes, it doesn't actually cause me that much pain, but when I first read it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to auto-correct this every time in my head. God damn it. After you've decided what your crit range is, you can then choose to spend momentum, take on threat, or use determination to add additional dice to the roll. After that, you roll and you tally the number of successes up against the number of failures, counting a 1 on the die as critical success, 2 successes, or any roll of a 20 as a critical fumble, 2 failures, and a complication. Any dice within the established crit range...
Well, there's no such thing as a failure, you just don't get a success. It does add a complication.
Yes, I mean...
There's no failure counter, though. It's either success or nothing.
Fair enough. I count the nothing as a fail. You did not succeed, so you failed. But yes.
Right, but what I'm saying is...
I know. There's no keyword failure. Yes, I get what
no. What I'm saying, the distinction being... Because some games have it where you tally up successes and failures, and you compare the two numbers. This is not a comparison situation. This is, you just count up how many successes you have. And then, the fumble is where the complications get added.
Star Wars, a game like Star Wars counts your failures. This one does not, right?
Yes. Right, correct.
Yes. In this case, I counted failures as if you did not roll a success, it is a failure.
Right, but you said number of failures. That's the reason I was clarifying.
Well, yeah. If you've got, you know what I mean.
I'm just clarifying because there is a relevant difference there.
I suppose, yes, there is a relevant difference. Either way, if you roll a 20, it counts as a fumble and you get a complication. Any instance within the established crit range also counts as critical successes. So if you, for example, have a focus that brings your range up to 6, any roll of a 6 and below counts as 2 successes. It also notes that in the case of rerolls, you can only reroll something once, and the second number is always kept over the first. Essentially what that means is if you can have 1 skill, 2 skill, or 3 skills that allow you to reroll die, you can only do it once. You don't get I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do this. No, you get 1 reroll, and then whatever the second option is, that's the new thing. So the game really expects you to weigh the cost of, well, I got a middling but successful thing here. maybe I should just leave on a fly.
Right, and the reason that you would want to potentially acquire more successes is because you could potentially get more momentum, which is more meta currency for the player to spend in their favor.
Yes.
Because if the GM sets your success, if the GM sets the target number to like 2, and you roll 3 successes, then you get 1 point of momentum. But if you want to re-roll, you could get like 4 or 5, and then you could get like 2 or 3 points of momentum, because it's every point over the success counts as a momentum. Also, with the complication thing, it's every die that rolls a 20 causes a complication. So you can have situations where you pass and add complications via your rolls. So, like, you can have a situation where you succeed at the thing, but because one of your die was a 20, then complication is added in, so you get what you want, but it's, something happens in an addendum. It's sort of like a combination of Apocalypse World and Blades in the Dark style dice system. It's a little bit of like a merging of those two in a way.
Yes, because Blades was you succeed with, what was it? You succeed with...
Blades technically is a binary pass-fail, but what the degrees of success comes into your effect level. So when you go, before you make the roll, the GM will tell you how effective the roll will be. So you can either have a limited, standard, or great effect.
Oh,
so
no, sorry. Yes. For me, it reminded me... No, okay. I know.
Are you thinking
it
of
reminded
position?
Me more. Yes, but no, it reminds me more of Star Wars, where you can succeed with advantage or fail with advantage.
Yes, so Star Wars is even more noodly, because you can succeed with a ton of complication or fail with a ton of advantage, and sometimes Star Wars is kind of funny, because sometimes as the GM it's really easy to adjudicate that, and sometimes it's like, I have no fucking clue what to do with this die roll.
Yeah, I remember you being like, all right, well, you've failed, but you've got
a ton of advantage, so you got 5
something. Advantage. So what does that at some point in the game specifically says you can't give someone a pass? We're kind of roasting Star Wars. You can't give someone a success if they have a ton of advantage. But what else should it be if not a success? If you've got a ton of advantage, it's supposed to be.
It's generally the way Star Wars wants you to do it is if you get like a ton of advantage, it's kind of it's like a side. So like you don't get the objective you were trying to achieve with your primary role, but you achieve a different objective. It's like a side thing happens in your benefit, but not the main thing you were trying to do. So you still get a success, but not a success that you were trying to get. You get like an unexpected success. Or mechanically, they give you all those other options that you can spend advantage on, like the blue dice and shit like that. The setback and what are the other dice? Setback and boost dice.
Boost dice, yeah. Fair enough.
So, yeah, sometimes with Star Wars it gets noodly. I don't think Dune will have that problem so much because you're less likely to have so many complications stacking up like that. Unless the GM spends a shitload of threat, but if the GM's spending a shitload of threat, they probably have an idea for what they want to do with it.
So. If they're spending a shitload of threat, they have an idea, and you can always absolutely dump momentum to cancel it out. I do kind of have a beef. We'll get into it a little more later, but there is no cap on the amount of threat that a GM can have.
I thought it caps at 6 like momentum.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't because it can't. Because if you have... so first, they don't mention it, but if you have 3 players working for a great house, that's 4 threat each. Assuming you have 3 players, that's 12 threat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just the fact that the scales are really imbalanced, and that makes me think that the game wants you to be spending threat a lot.
Well, you're supposed to be spending threat and momentum quite often.
You are, yeah, but I just think it's weird that you can't.
Because you can
stockpile momentum.
You can stockpile momentum.
Up to 6, but not
up to 6. Yeah,
but you can have 6 momentum. Your GM could have 18 threat.
Right, but your momentum, you can use the momentum during a roll too, right? Like extra momentum generated can be immediately spent on that same roll, right? So if the success number is 2 and I roll 4, then I have 2 momentum. I can immediately spend that 2 momentum on the thing I just did. It's not like I need to wait till the next roll. So you can swing it in your favor in that way if you roll really well. And momentum comes and goes quite fast. So I don't think it's a huge deal. Also, determination is more powerful than threat is. So if you have some determination stacked up, you can definitely swing it quite heavily in your favor.
Yes, and that is true. But
the GM isn't supposed to give you difficulty 0 test specifically for the objective of generating momentum.
Yes, a couple things about that. GMs gain momentum as well, and it translates directly into threat.
It turns into threat, yeah.
So they can also do the same thing, because if they get the momentum, they can immediately spend the momentum the way that you can.
I think only for notable NPCs that they do that, though. I don't think minor NPCs you can do that.
I don't remember reading that anywhere. I think just any NPC can do it.
I'd have to double check, but I feel like minor NPCs, it said don't do that.
It may have. I don't remember seeing that at all, but fair enough. Either way, moving on from the rules of a roll, the game functions on a set of scenes. This is pretty familiar in concept. A scene is any abstracted amount of time within one specific place or time frame, and the second it jumps to a new thing or the narrative shifts perspective, that scene there ends. Not a whole lot we got to talk about there. One thing worth mentioning is that this section does bring up traits a bit more in detail and provides some, what I think is much needed context on traits in general and how they work. So we're gonna talk about that real quick. Let's see. I seem to have jumbled up that a little bit, but it's fine. Unless I didn't. No, I didn't. Traits, as you know from what we've said last time, are essentially a tool that allows the player to shift the level of difficulty in any given direction that may bring it from being impossible to possible, or making it difficult or easier, or vice versa. I really like the way that the game phrases how traits are used. You get the following options between: because I am personal trait, this activity is easier, harder, possible, impossible. Because of situation or location trait, this activity is so on and so forth. And because I have equipment trait, this activity is so on and so forth. I really like that. It is simple but elegant and helps put things into perspective. Frankly, I really like that this book does that kind of across the board. It puts things in very casual language to understand how it works. Like on the rule side of things, maybe not all the time, but as we said last time, the example text puts a lot of it into context in a really nice way, you know?
It does, yes. My only complaint, I love the idea of traits, and I have seen games that have mechanically kind of a similar thing to traits. My only thing that I question slightly is that from a purely mechanical standpoint, traits and assets do kind of the exact same thing, and it's weird that they were delineated when they don't have any real mechanical delineation. Found that to be a slightly odd choice. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, and I do think it's a little weird because I'll talk about it later. Assets can give you things, if depending on their quality, but they don't always. The game specifies assets can do X, Y, or Z that traits don't do, up to GM's discretion, which I think is a little goofy.
Well, assets do essentially the same idea as traits, where they either make something possible or give you a bonus towards doing the thing. It's essentially the same idea. It's just that traits are a slightly more nebulous element of your character, whereas assets are a little bit more tangible, although not always tangible, because you can have assets like blackmail. So
wait, hold on. So assets do more than that. It specifically states that if you're doing, what do they call them? Extended checks, when you're doing clocks.
Right. Quality of an asset is relevant for sure, which is fair, but I don't know. I feel like they could have been lumped into the same phrasing bag. I don't know that separating them really served that much of a purpose. Like, I get why they did it.
Sorta, yeah.
Traits describe your character, whereas assets are a thing your character has. So I get why they did it that way, but I don't know if it needed to work that way.
I don't think I would have liked it if it worked another way, because it would have just added another layer of abstraction that I think would have just confused me.
I think everything could have been lumped under asset. I mean, I don't know if I love the word asset per se, but I think everything kind of could have been lumped under assets. Like, I don't know that traits and assets had to be separated, is really all I'm getting at.
Oh, you think they should be lumped under assets, not traits?
Yeah, like traits should not be a keyword. All of it should just be considered an asset. Like, my Chris knife is an asset, is a tangible asset, and my nobility is an intangible asset. You know what I mean? Whereas technically the way it works is if your character is a noble, that's a trait, and their knife is an asset. But it doesn't really matter mechanically. They end up doing similar things.
Well, so what about like area traits? Maybe that's where you can have the distinction. If that the example they give is at the party, the environmental trait is convivial, so maybe that's where you would just let it run.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. The trait of the environment, but I guess maybe the thing that would make it a little, it is hard to say actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I guess maybe what I would do would be traits are a GM thing and assets are a player thing. Maybe is the distinction I might have gone for.
Yeah, I think that's. I would say that's elegant enough. Yeah, that works.
But that's true. You did point out. I kind of forgot that traits can apply to more nebulous things, so that does add in a layer. Yeah. All right, now I don't know.
Noodly.
Now I'm kind of in the middle. Yeah, now I kind of forgot about that bit. So now I'm in the middle on it. I'm not sure.
Fair. That's valid.
Yeah, the important thing is that traits on your character as a player, traits are like background. Excuse me, are like background descriptors. Right, like you could have a trait that is nobility or a trait that is Bene Gesserit, and that's describing your character's background, but it also can come into various tests.
I wonder, like, if instead they had just kept it to traits being literal personality traits. Like, if you as a character have the trait convivial, or amicable,
right,
or
but
sly or clever, like.
I do like the idea of environmental traits, though, and like zones having traits and stuff. I do like that.
I agree. Like,
so yeah. I don't want to lose that either.
No, because like in the alleyway skirmish that they describe, if one of the traits in the alleyway is dark, then you're like, cool. So me, the trained assassin, can use dark to get some extra buff on my rolls.
Right.
I can walk up and say, bang, bang, grabs dick, disappears into the dark.
Yeah, maybe it should have been like personality traits, assets, and environmental traits.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of mental delineation.
I think... yes, I think I would like that. I like the idea of abstraction, but I think maybe we could, if we could pull it away from it a little bit, we can try to... solidify some of these ideas, because
abstraction is the name of the game with this game.
It is, and I understand that, and I get it now, but just because I get it doesn't mean I love it, you know? I'm all for making things like weird and abstract, but you can have too much of a good thing.
I like it because it allowed them to make a combat system that covers so many different things. Whereas if they didn't have that level of abstraction, you would have had to have like 3 at least different combat systems in this game otherwise,
no,
you know?
It's true. It's true. Look, it is a fantastic multi-tool. It is a lot for me, though. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Moving on from the basic skill test stuff, I really wanted to take a second to talk about difficulty, because I really, really like the way that the game describes difficulty, as I said. And it's a pretty simple metric from 1 to 5. If a basic difficulty test that requires a rolling is difficulty 1, and it scales up to 5 based on the different factors that surround a complex task. And obviously from 1 to 5 are refer to the number of successes that you need to complete any given task. I do want to go over exactly how they're described here, because I feel like if games did this more, it would be such a godsend for understanding things like DC.
Should we say,
especially in something like,
I was gonna say, should we say how the actual roll is made first?
Have we not?
I don't think we step by stepped it.
Okay, yeah, I mean we can do that quick step by step. And keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean,
when performing any action, a GM will request a skill test based on their skill of choice. You will then suggest a drive and a potential drive statement. Based on that number combined is how you equal your DC. Once the DC is achieved, you can suggest a focus. That focus will shift your crit range, and you can therefore spend any meta currency to further vary the outcome of a roll either into or out of your favor.
So the important thing, this is the part so you combine your drive and your skill, which gets you a number. So like if you have like a 6 and a 6, then your target number is 12. Every die that rolls under a 12 is a point of success.
Yes.
Every point of success goes towards the difficulty. The difficulty is on a 0 to 5 scale, so if it's difficulty 1, you only need 1 point of success, which is to say you only need 1 d20 to roll under a 12. I don't think we explained the number part.
I thought we had last episode, but we may not have.
I don't think we did.
Where was I? Speaking of difficulty. All right, yeah.
So, now difficulty.
Yeah. At a simple difficulty, it's described as nudging open a stuck door, following an unaware subject in a dark place you know intimately, asking for a simple favor, deceiving a simple-minded subject, which is a little the way they word that's kind of funny, investigating a subject of common knowledge. At difficulty 1, overcoming a simple lock, following an unaware subject in the dark, asking for a significant favor from a friend.
But you should say the number, though. Simple is difficulty 0, average is difficulty 1.
Yes, average difficulty 1. Deceiving a trusting subject or investigating private but not secret knowledge. At challenging, difficulty 2. Overcoming a complex lock, following a suspicious subject in the dark, asking for a favor that costs the benefactor something minor, deceiving a wary subject, investigating confidential or hidden knowledge. At daunting, difficulty 3, overcoming a complex lock in a hurry, following a subject during the day, asking for a difficult favor from someone you already owe, deceiving a deeply suspicious subject, and investigating knowledge that has been actively hidden by a powerful faction. Difficulty 4, at dire, you have overcoming a complex lock in a hurry without the right tools, following a suspicious subject in the daytime, in streets they know well. You have asking for a complicated or complex favor, deceiving a subject who considers you an enemy, and investigating knowledge whose very existence has been hidden. And then finally, at epic level, difficulty 5, overcoming a complex lock in a hurry without the right tools during a battle, following a subject who knows they're being followed, knows you personally, and knows the streets, asking for a dangerous favor from a stranger, deceiving your worst enemy, investigating knowledge whose very existence has been hidden for centuries. I love that. In each situation of difficulty, it adds on a little rider onto the end.
It's like every step of difficulty adds another note, another layer of why it's harder.
Yeah, and the door thing is perfect. 0, nudge a door that's already open. 1, overcome a basic lock. 2, complex lock. 3, complex lock in a hurry. 4, complex lock in a hurry without tools. 5, complex lock in a hurry without tools during a gunfight.
Yep.
That is such a good, simple, really contextual way to put that into perspective, you know? Because you can literally go, oh, well, we gotta, what do I do? We're in the middle of a gunfight and I have to hack this palm lock and I don't have tools for this shit and I don't really know what I'm doing. All right, dog, that's a difficulty 5. Perfect. That's what the game says. That's how we're going to do it. It's fantastic. It's awesome.
It's clear. It's clear delineation between the degrees.
Yeah. And I feel like to some people this might be like, yeah, why is that so cool? Because a lot of fucking games don't do this.
Yeah, a lot of games don't make it clear what the degrees of difficulty are. Like, or a lot of games will say what degrees of difficulty should be, but they're pretty nebulous in how they describe them.
Yeah. Like, if I remember correctly, I think D&D 2024 talks about this, or 2025, 2026.
You can call it 5.5 now.
Oh, yeah, all right.
They started calling it 5.5, so we're good now.
Right. Yeah. I think 5.5 talks about it in better detail, but in 2014, it was just like, DC is what you make it, and a higher DC means it's harder, and then it shouldn't go over 30, and you're like...
Yeah, okay. I don't remember how precisely they describe it. I mean, like Fabula, for example, your layers of difficulty are just like a one sentence. Easy, it's just anyone with a bit of training or natural talent can do it. Normal is a competent person. Hard is an expert or a prodigy. And then very hard is someone who's like the best in the field. It's, you know, those phrases aren't super precise, but they're good enough to kind of have a gauge. Dune is being like especially precise. It's being like really specific in what the degrees of difficulty should look like. And, you know,
I would arguably say that I like the Dune one more than the Fabula one, because the Fabula one puts the onus on the character. Like, difficulty equates to how good you are as a character, not how complex the task is.
Right.
I feel like that might be easy for a GM to misconstrue as like, like, for example, right? It's like, well, Goro is a samurai, so he should be an expert at this, so I'm going to put these difficulties high because he can hit those. And it's like, well, no. I am narratively an expert, but I still only have 2d8, right? So, like, I probably am not going to hit a 14 DC a lot.
Yeah, it is also worth pointing out that the way the target number stuff works is different between the two games, so that also adds a layer of difference in how you describe it, right? Because in Dune, your character sets their own target number, whereas Fabula GM sets the target number. So it's a little tricky to like cross compare.
Well, so in Dune, the player and the DC together choose the target number, because the player GM always chooses skill.
Right, the player's skill drive combo determines the target number, and then the GM determines how many successes you need. It's a little more... Yeah, there's a little bit more of a back and forth in Dune than in Fabula, so becomes a slightly harder comparison.
Well, I mean, even more than that, the GM literally says, roll me a battle check, you know, like.
Yeah, well, so I was a little confused on that. It seems like that doesn't have to be the case. It seems like the player can say, I would like to use this skill.
Where did you see that?
Unfortunately, I don't remember exactly where, but I want to say it might have been, maybe it was in the conflict stuff. I don't remember, but I feel like I remember something about the player kind of arguing like, well, could this skill maybe apply instead? So there might be some negotiation
So,
there.
Yes, there is a back and forth, but the ultimate say is on the GM.
Yeah, final say, yeah.
Unless there might be an ability somewhere that says like anything you roll with battle. You use, move,
there's definitely
like that,
there's definitely replacement skills like that. That's definitely a thing.
Yeah. But yeah. After we talk about the difficulty, we got to talk about these motherfucking meta currencies because there's a lot of them and they do similar but different things. Look, the game acknowledges that there's a lot of them.
I don't know. I don't think three is that many.
I think 3 is a lot.
I mean, it's like 2.5 really, because 2 of them you use most of the time, and then the third one comes in sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose. Still, it is. I feel like it's a lot.
It's only one more than most games.
Fair enough, but the player has access to like.
Most games use like 2. This game uses 3.
Well, yeah, most games use 2, and the GM gets 1, and then the player gets 1. But in this game, the player can use all 3.
Kind of. You could sort of use all 3.
At the very least, you use 2, and then you sort of
definitely
offer
use
the GM
2 of them, and
the ability to use 1 to the first 2 are on debit. Threat is on credit.
Yes.
Which is a weird way of putting about it, but it makes sense when you think about it.
It's true, yes. You can credit the threat, yeah.
Starting with the first one, we will talk about a momentum. Momentum is a currency pooled by the party that consists of excess successes. Say that 3 times fast. Generated from skill checks. In practice, this means that if you roll 4 successes on a difficulty 2 check, 2 momentum get added to the momentum pool. Keep note of this because your pool, as we said, cannot exceed 6 momentum at any given time.
And it is a party pool.
Yes, it is a party pool. There are other ways of generating momentum, usually through like talent-specific abilities or using high-quality assets, but those vary, and one of those is subject to the DM. Momentum can be spent either before or after a skill check to either provide more dice to a roll, improve a poor or already positive outcome, or otherwise create some sort of advantage in a situation. In any case, it can generally only be spent once per check, though the amount that you can spend that one time may vary. If you're adding dice to your pool, you can add up to 3 additional dice for any skill test. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the amount of dice you get increases by the same amount of momentum, right? So for 1 die, it's 1 momentum. For 2 dice, you add an additional 2 momentum, right? So it's 3 total, 3 momentum total.
Yes. Yeah. To add your first die is 1 momentum. To add a second die is 2,
it's
and then
2,
the third die would be 3.
It's 3. So that would come out to 6 momentum total. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I was reading that right because I was a little confused.
Yes. So buying 3 additional momentum is going to cost 6 at the end of the day.
6, yeah. Which, I mean...
Or 3 additional dice is going to cost 6 momentum.
It might wipe you out, but it also might...
Save your ass.
At the same time. Well, at the same time, it'll save your ass, but you could hit a situation where you completely re-up all 6 if you get that lucky. So...
Yep.
don't be afraid of the big money no whammies, because there's a solid chance, unless you roll like dog shit, that you're going to get at least some of them back.
Yeah, this game is not quite like Star Wars. You don't want to save your momentum. You want to be burning it quite often.
Yeah,
as it comes and goes quite quickly.
Especially for things like fights. Like, they talk about it in the dueling section, but you're going to be throwing fast. Yeah, you'll be throwing momentum and threat at everything. It's kind of hard to understate how important this shit is. But outside of using momentum for rolls, it can also be spent in several other ways. If you spend 2 momentum, you can it allows players to create and assign traits to scenes. Usually you do this before dice are rolled, but again, that can change. You can use 2 momentum to create an asset spontaneously on scene. Something like a valuable piece of information you didn't have, or, for example, an asset like an emergency dagger to get you out of a sticky situation.
Yes, it does have to be kind of within narrative reason, though. Yeah.
You can then spend an additional 2 momentum to make it a permanent item that you get to keep. The difference of that basically being is if you use the 2 momentum to make a dagger to shank an assassin, once the scene ends, the game presumes that you either left the dagger or dropped it or it broke or something. You just don't have access to it anymore. But if you spend the additional 2, you show up in the next scene with the thing in hand. Any asset you create this way always begins at quality 0. There's no way to increase that, as far as I'm aware.
You can with character advancement.
With character advancement, yes, but you can't. For example, I can't create a quality 1 item.
Oh, you can't create a higher quality item, no.
No, yeah. Where was I?
I did figure out, by the way, the weird character advancement that lets you make a created asset permanent, and we were like, why is this a rule?
Yes.
It's because determination lets you create an asset that lasts for more than 1 scene and then goes away at the end of an adventure. So if you want to make that created asset permanent, you can the asset you created with determination, you can make permanent via character advancement points.
Okay, so contextually speaking, the momentum version is I create a dagger, shank the assassin, and either run off without it or take it with me. With the determination one, you rock up saying you hijacked an ornithopter and you get to keep that thopter for the rest of the adventure.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. The important distinction being that an asset you create with determination is higher quality than a momentum one.
Does it start at quality 1?
Yes. Yeah, so it's more worth it.
What was I saying?
Slightly weird, like, rules distinction interplay situation, but yeah.
Yeah. You can also spend several momentum at once to gain information about a situation or a character. Essentially, with each momentum that you spend, you as the player can ask the GM a question. They must answer truthfully, but the answers can be cryptic or incomplete. Basically offering you a way to, you're like, oh, GM, what do I know about this person? And the GM goes, okay, well, through rumors that you're pretty sure are true, X, Y, or Z, but that last part is hazy. Or it might be uncorroborated, essentially.
Yeah.
Look, I'm sorry, it just feels, for me, reading this rule book, providing context situations helps memorize it so much better, so I'm just trying to provide the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the examples of this book are good.
They're so useful. And with that's the end of momentum. Up next, you have threat. It's the second way to shift the outcomes of rolls into and potentially out of the player's favor, depending on who you are. It essentially works as a sort of fear die in, a la Daggerheart.
Yes, it's very fear die.
And players can opt to give the GM threat on them for specific boons. Players can offer the GM points of threat to add additional dice to the roll at the same rate as momentum.
Yeah,
so
same as
1 for 1, 3 for 2, 6 for 3. You can also use them. You can offer the GM 2 threat to ignore the outcomes of a complication. That being, the negative effects that we described on rolling a 20 on on a die. This isn't player controlled, but certain situations may cause something called an escalation event, which will naturally add threat to the threat pool. I didn't really see, I thought the escalation thing was weird because it was listed in the same place as the player facing, you can buy with threat. But I didn't see any reason why a player would choose an escalation event. You get nothing for it.
What do you mean?
So it talks about, it says player characters can add to the so it's adding to the threat pool, not necessarily using it. Okay, never mind. All right, that's because I can't fucking read.
Wait. Which rule were you talking about?
On page 155, when it first talks about threat, it says adding to threat. But I was thinking about the underneath it. Well, so no, it wouldn't even be really spending threat because this is weirdly placed, is what I'm trying to say. Because the first two things allow players to do a thing, right?
Yeah.
Buying D20s, ignoring complications. And then the last one is not a player thing. It's called escalation. Or it allows the GM to add threat based on escalation. In my head, I was conflating that as something that the player gets.
Right. No, yeah. What it's saying is the GM can add to the threat pool as a result of players' poor rolls or whatever. If they don't have a complication in mind, they can throw in some threat instead.
Okay.
So if the players roll and they succeed and they get a complication, but the GM doesn't have any good idea for what the immediate fictional complication could be, they can just throw into the threat pool, essentially fictionally representing the idea that things are getting more tense over time.
Copy. Gotcha.
Yeah.
After adding to the threat pool, GMs themselves can add to that pool by creating threatening circumstances. Essentially, you just how do I want to word this? When you introduce threatening narrative elements into a given scene that can add threat. So, for example, if a character pulls a gun, that could add threat. That's kind of the escalation thing, right? The scene is shifting for the more dangerous, and therefore the GM gets to take on more threat. And then there's the non-character, the NPC momentum thing that we talked about. When NPCs generate momentum as part of their roles, it can add to threat. I believe this specifically accounts for hostile NPCs, right? Because why would an ally NPC generate threat with more successes? You know what I mean? That feels weird.
It says in the I think it says in the ally and adversary sections that if it's a teammate NPC, they generate momentum like normal.
Oh, okay, perfect. One of the things that I will dock this book is that for as much as it repeats itself, it doesn't do a great job at referencing itself,
How do you mean?
So there are some spots in the book where it'll use a keyword and then it'll say, look at page this. But it doesn't do it enough, in my opinion. Right there's a perfect example. The non-player character momentum.
Mm-hmm.
It could have said, as they don't have a group momentum pool, instead non-player characters may add threat, yada yada, and then go for hostile NPCs only. Look at page X, Y, or Z. Instead, it just gives you the information wholesale over again. But
sometimes it does the look at page thing, and sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it just reiterates itself, which isn't always helpful, and it really does inflate the page count. I feel like
A
this
little
book
bit.
could have been like maybe 20, 30 pages shorter. It'd still be a 300-page book.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Hard to say.
It would be a 300-page book and not a almost 350-page book.
Sure.
Not a huge amount, but I think about it. GMs can use their threat and spend it in a very similar way to the way that players spend momentum. They can also buy D20s at the same rate as everyone else. They can increase difficulty, choosing to up or down. To increase or lower the difficulty
Ups
of
or
any given
downs.
threat.
That's Slayer's theme.
It is Slayer's theme that you were just listening to.
I was. It's true.
For increasing difficulty, the GM has to spend 2 threat for every shift, and the difficulty shift must be made before any dice are rolled or bought otherwise. So, after all of the variables for a roll are made, but before the player chooses to spend momentum, that is when the GM can say, okay, so based on all of your skills, your drive, your assets, traits, after all of that, I'm going to spend 4 threat to turn your difficulty 1 into a difficulty 3. What they cannot do is, after you've already spent the momentum to get an extra die, the GM cannot be like, I'm going to be a bit of a bitch about this, and because you spent that momentum, increase anyway.
Yes. The GM has to spend their meta currency before the player spends theirs.
Yeah.
That's the crux of that one.
Yeah. This one I think is kind of interesting. The NPC threat spends. When a player character's action would normally add points to threat, non-player characters performing that same action or making that same choice must spend the equivalent number of points of threat.
Yeah, I was slightly I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, I'm gonna be honest.
I didn't either. Okay.
I think what they're trying to say is that if the player is doing something risky and dangerous that generates threat, then the NPC has to burn some of the threat pool to do something equally risky and dangerous in response. I think that's what it's trying to say.
Can you provide a contextual thing for that? Because I can't think of one.
So the contextual thing being that the player, fictionally, I don't know, slightly hard to say fictionally. Mechanically speaking, it's the idea that the player has added to the threat pool to do a risky maneuver, and then the GM's like, well, I'm going to do a risky maneuver right back, so you just have to immediately burn the threat you just gained.
Oh, okay.
You get what I mean?
Yeah. All right, that makes sense.
Fictionally, I don't know, like, I can't think of a great example off the top of my head, honestly, but yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I get what you're saying. After that, non-player character complications. Essentially, the GM can wipe away their own complications by spending threat. Yeah. Which that would probably feel a little annoying if done at the right or / wrong moment, depending on who you're asking.
Done excessively.
Yeah. It could be a bit of a pain in the dick. The GM can also spend threat to change, remove, or create traits by spending 2 points each. This must be done in a situation that it's already shifting. Like, you can't... how do I describe this? It's worded weirdly. It has to be done on the spot.
It has to be done on the spot in a way that makes sense. So, like, if the player character is beating your NPC's ass, you can't necessarily spend threat to be like, and suddenly a trapdoor.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. I think that's what they're getting at. I'm not 100%.
That's how it feels. Yeah. Because what I was thinking was, if the player spent threat to improve their situation in something like what's that conflict called? An intrigue conflict. which would have given them a better result in the next conflict, I think it also means that the GM can't spend threat to undo the work that the player did going into the next scene.
You want, it's like you generally want threat to be spent as a, momentum is something the players spend when the momentum is going in their favor, literally, and threat is something that the GM spends when the momentum is going in the NPC's favor, right? Like that's kind of the idea. So you're not meant to spend threat as like a rug pull maneuver.
I think that's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, you can't rug pull people with your threat.
Yeah, and you probably will by accident sometimes, to be honest, because it's hard not to when you have a meta currency thing like this.
Intent matters. You can't purposefully fuck your players.
Yes, you shouldn't purposely spend it to rug pull what they just pulled. Like, if they just rolled really well and pulled off some cool shit, don't be like, actually, the ceiling caves in.
Yeah.
Because that's a dick move.
To that effect, you can perform environmental and narrative changes. For example, if you wanted to drastically shift a scene, for example, in the intrigue example that we gave like 2 seconds ago, if you wanted to drastically change what's going on by being like, and then a bomb goes off in the background, you could do that by spending threat.
Yeah, I think the important thing to keep in mind... I think the important thing to keep in mind is that this game is kind of pulling from the Apocalypse World school of thought in terms of follow the fiction over everything else, right? So when you're thinking about how to spend threat and how to leverage it and how the players are leveraging momentum, it's the idea of really focusing on, okay, fictionally, does it make sense for this to happen? Is there a good justification? And if the fiction does not follow, then probably lean away from it. And if you come at it with that mentality, you'll probably be safe.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You'll certainly, you'll be in a better position than not doing that. Yeah.
I think this game is, they don't say it, and I don't know why.
They would say it.
Yeah, I think this game would benefit from really emphasizing this game is super fiction first. It's very fiction forward in how its mechanics interact, and they don't say it super clearly. And I think if they were a little more upfront about that, it would help make some of the rules make sense, because even the conflict rules ultimately follow that fiction first design, even if they don't look like it from the outset.
The social ones definitely do. Yeah, I mean, no, I guess the only one that doesn't is the war one. The warfare one is almost a board game,
right? But it is a board game. You're right, but it is still focusing on the fiction first, because you need to be able to fictionally justify your board game actions before you can do them. Right? You can't just say...
Yeah, that's true.
Because this game doesn't have an attack action, right? You can't just say, my troops attack that unit, right? You need to fictionally justify that context.
You do, yes. Fair enough.
That's the difference.
No, that's a valid difference. As for the final way to spend threat as a GM, you can do something called a rival house action, which essentially allows you to drop one of your players, one of the PC houses,
the rival faction
onto the Just like if you're playing the Harkonnens, you can just choose a scene and be like, and then Fade Routha shows up, which feels really funny if you want the recurring villain thing, because you could pull a Duncan Idaho and just be like, and then a Duncan Gola shows up, and everyone's just son of a bitch. No.
Yeah, it's the spend meta currency to have the big bad villain pop in and fuck with your day kind of thing.
I would love that if like the players like, we finally killed Fade Routha in the previous adventure. It feels so good to be rid of him, and then you guys were at like the celebration party, and then a Fade Gola shows up, and the players are just like,
I mean,
no.
It doesn't have to be a Gola, but it could be somebody related to House Harkonnen. right? Like,
See, it'd be really funny if it was a Gola.
it would be funny if it was a Gola, though. Yes.
To those of you not to know, a Gola is a clone. It's
a Dune clone.
Yeah, it's just a funny way of saying a clone.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about it.
Fade just haunting. Now I have
Just
a weird
haunting the
headcanon. Now I have a weird headcanon of Fade just haunting Paul Atreides like Sephiroth haunts Cloud's life. He just never leaves that motherfucker a moment of peace. It's just constantly up his ass.
No, see, the headcanon gets worse. Can you just imagine, like, Paul clapping cheeks, and he looks to his side, and Fade's just there's a Force Ghost and does the, "You fought well, Atreides."
And Shawnee's just like, what are you looking at, Paul? And he's like, nothing.
He's just got
Nothing.
the fucking 1,000-yard stare.
It's fine. Can we take a break? I need some water.
Yeah.
Paul's going to take a piss and Fade's just sitting on the toilet like, "Hey, bud."
Yeah, he's like, I noticed it. Did you pull a hip flexor on that when I saw you stumble up in the 5-minute mark?
You all right, buddy? You need to keep limber? You need to do some yoga?
Yeah, Paul angrily rubbing Tiger Balm into his fucking hips.
You need to do some Benny Gesserit yoga?
Your hand exercises, Paul.
Oh, my God. Your Benny Gesserit hand exercises. Oh, my God. So fucking stupid. Worm boy.
Worm boy. You son of a bitch.
He haunts our lives.
Dude, he fucking does. It really, really does. There are so many times where I think about the fucking nasty ass vestigial arms or the stupid floating bed thing he sits on.
Oh, his baby carrier.
Yeah, or the fact that he can jump like really high in the air with his nasty worm body. These things haunt me. These things haunt me in my daily life, bro. It's kind of nuts.
It's so bad. So bad.
Oh my lord, I can't. Jesus Christ. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I have a worse headcanon than the Fade fucking the Fade Force Ghost. If you have a Vladimir Harkonnen Force Ghost who's constantly in your ear.
God. Hey there, grandson. How you doing?
Oh my God.
How's things going over there, buddy? Saw you clapping those.
Oh God! It was even worse because the new movie Paul's like older and he shaved his head. It's just Harkonnen. Lovely grandson, why did you cut your locks? Like,
oh my God!
Oh my God!
Grandson, do you like the spice?
Oh my God!
Fucking curse, dude. Oh.
What the fuck is wrong with us? Anyway,
I hate this. I hate this headcanon. I hate it so much.
The last meta currency that you have access to in the game is fucking determination. It is arguably the strongest of the meta currencies, balanced out by the fact that it is difficult to use, and at the start of the game, you only have access to one. You can get more than one, and you can have a maximum of 3 at any given time, but they are, generally speaking, more difficult to get your hands on. To use your determination, you need the following things to be true. Or I should say, you need the following thing to be true. It has to align with your drive, or it has to coincide with the roll using a drive and drive statement.
Yeah, the statement part specifically.
Yes, the statement being very important. That being said, if you do make a roll that has a drive statement with it, you can do the following. You can guarantee critical rolls, so you can guarantee an automatic 1 before rolling. Just any one of the dice, you go, that's going to be a 1. And it does not need to be rolled at all. You can, assuming you roll poorly, re-roll any given roll, which would probably be better if you were rolling a high difficulty, 4 or 5 die dice pool. You can make something called declarations, which are not the Genesis system narrative declarations a la Force Points, nor are they the alter the narrative thing. I wish they weren't called declarations. Basically, you can create a new trait in either yourself or the environment that is and therefore always was true. It's kind of annoying that that's all it is. That doesn't feel super good or interesting, but I suppose it is effective in a situation where, for example, if you have to run away, you can run away and be like, oh, well, we have to get out of this, we got to get out of Arakeen, and then you can use the determination to put, I don't know, ornithopter pilot or something like that, and be like, well, I was always an ornithopter pilot, therefore I can do this thing,
Yeah, you're declaring an element of your character retroactively. It's I mean, I don't know. I get why. What else would you call it other than declaration,
I would just say create a trait. Because the threat has the same thing. The threat is literally just described as create where is it?
I guess that's true.
Traits. Game Master may change, remove, or create a trait by spending 2 points of threat. So just call it create a trait. I got really excited when I saw declaration and found out it wasn't actually a declaration. And I was kind of sad. I'm not going.
Fair enough.
The final thing that you can do is use determination to gain an extra action in a conflict. So, the thing I like about this is that you can use it to give yourself an extra action, even if you've already done the keep the initiative action. So as we'll talk about later, because I'm going to give this one to Josh, if you are in, for example, a duel, which is a type of conflict, you can have up to 2 actions per round, which is to say you can do one thing, and assuming that you're successful in that one thing, you can do it again. By using a declaration, you can do a third thing, which could potentially just win you the duel outright. Not always, but it could happen.
Yeah, if you spend determination, you can potentially win in a single turn for sure.
That'd be pretty sick. I didn't notice, it doesn't say it here. I believe when you say that when you can create the quality 1 asset, but it doesn't list it here, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, it says it under, I think it says it in the assets chapter.
It probably does. I may have missed it.
Yes, it does. It just say, yeah. One method of creating a trait is by spending determination. This is just as useful for creating assets. These factors are worth considering. Assets created with determination have a basic quality of 1 or 2 if you spend 2 points of momentum to increase the asset's quality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it says it in the asset chapter for some reason. I have noticed some people online mention that Modifius Games has a bit of a formatting problem. So, yeah.
That tracks.
Yeah.
Now, it's worth mentioning before we end determination that there are some caveats involved that we briefly touched on in last episode. Mainly the way that it interacts with your drive. Other than requiring a drive statement to use it at all, if you're trying to take an action and you are using your determination to improve your odds, if that action things can shift, I should say, depending on whether or not the action conflicts or agrees with your drive statement. If it agrees with your drive statement, then you move on, as usual, nothing really shifts for you. If it conflicts with your drive statement, you can choose to force compliance into your drive statement, which will, if you still decide to go through with the action, will give you an automatic complication to whatever you're trying to do. Inversely, it could also, in extreme cases, stop you from being able to complete the action. In a situation where your drive statement is, I don't kill unarmed, combatants, and you choose to kill Vladimir Harkonnen, your greatest enemy, who's an unarmed combatant, and you spend determination to do it, you're going to have a problem as you shatter your principles to get what you want. If you decide that your drive statement is no longer as true as you believed it to be, you still get to go through with the action. However, you lose access to that drive and drive statement going forward until you recover it. You essentially will get it back after you have, I think it's after an adventure. You can do that, right?
Yeah, it's like after some downtime is the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, you can choose to recover it. You can bring it back. You can get the same drive statement, but no matter what, if you do this, that drive statement will be subtracted
It
1
reduces,
point, and another drive statement will go up 1 point to prove
and
that
if
you're
it falls to 6
below 6. Yeah,
or below 6.
Yeah, if it's 5 or
it
lower,
falls
you can't
below.
do it.
Yeah, if it falls below 6, you lose the drive statement. The drive statements, by the way, I don't. I feel we're bouncing around. I'm losing track. I don't remember if we said it or not. So like focuses are like a statement that you attach to a skill. So you might have a character who has their skill in battle is 6 and they have a focus of short blades. So when you're fighting with a short blade, which is to say like a knife, you can add that focus bonus, which increases your crit range. Drives are duty, faith, justice, power, truth, which are like what drives your character. And then a drive statement is a statement about said belief. So in the example character, they have a character who has duty 7, and her drive statement for her duty is, I am the heir of my house. So anytime she's doing an action relevant to the idea that she is the heir of her house, and so she is in service to that concept, that is when the drive statement comes into play, and that's where you can get the determination and spend determination and so on and so forth. They're rider statements that attach to the drives and skills. Drives and skills being the things that you put together to figure out target number for successes, so on and so forth.
Right. But yeah, with that is the end of the meta currencies, and just a couple small things that we will touch on really quick. The game brings up contests, which are just contested roles.
Contested roles are slightly weird in this game, I ain't even gonna lie.
Yeah, pretty much anytime that you make a roll against someone, it could be a player or an NPC, it's always a contested roll. And the person that you are rolling against always gets to roll first, and what they roll in successes will become the amount of DCs that you have to beat. So, for example, if you try to, say, assassinate a target and you go to attack them, they get to roll to see if they catch you before you attack them, sort of showing their ability to think on their feet. Let's say, based on the standard roll that they go through, that roll is a difficulty 1 and they make 4 successes. The difficulty for you going forward is now 4. And then you roll to see if you can beat that.
You don't set, the GM doesn't set a difficulty during contested rolls. You just roll against 0.
Is it 0?
Yeah, it's always set to 0.
I thought it was always 1.
No, it's 0. You determine as the player, you're determining how many successes you get, and the opposing character has to see how many successes they need to beat.
I see. Okay. Wait, no. The person you're opposing rolls first, and then you have to beat that.
Well, wait. Yes. Hold on. Wait.
If you go to assassinate a target, the assassination target rolls first. You as the player roll second.
Yes, yeah. The defender rolls first, yes.
Defender always rolls first, yes.
But the important thing is that they roll to see how many successes they're going to get, and then that's how many successes you have to beat.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. After that, there's a quick section on extended tasks. These are clocks. Worth mentioning, this is pretty much the same for everything across the board for other RPGs that use clocks. But it's worth mentioning that in conflicts, your character sheet does not have health. There is no metric by which you gauge your character's fighting ability or ability to complete a task. It is almost always done through extended tasks.
It's done, yeah, it's an extended task, and the way that you determine the target, the way that you determine how many successes for the extended task you need is equal to whichever drive makes them, or whichever skill makes the most sense, right? Skill, is it skill or a drive?
Skill, yes.
Skill, yeah, whichever skill. So if you're in a fight and you have a battle score, you have a battle skill of 7, then your health is effectively 7. So the opponent needs 7 successes to beat you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now we can get to the actual... Well, I can't say the actual. We can get to the coolest part of the game, which is the conflict system. Thoughts before we get into the meat of it? This shit is crazy. Usually when there is like a catch-all mechanic that tries to do all of the things, it almost never works and is more often than not noodly and kind of janky in a way that's kind of frustrating. Perfect example, Kane, one of my favorite games. When anything you do is a series of clocks, it tries to make everything clocks. And generally speaking, it is successful. But when you're fighting the Sin itself, the Sin's health bar is a clock. And not only is its health bar a clock, its ability, it doesn't get to act on its own. It does something in response to your attacks. So because it puts so much on this nebulous system, you kind of lose some of the substance on the Sin character sheets themselves, if that makes sense.
I mean, I would not call it nebulous, but okay.
What would you call it?
I mean, nebulous implies that it's like vague and unclear. I don't think that the threat or the talisman system, as they call it in Kane, is unclear or nebulous. I think it makes perfect sense.
Fair enough. I meant it as a catch-all sort of.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing you gotta rationalize. If you have a game where an enemy target has an HP pool, like your standard D&D, ultimately, HP is just a really fucking long clock that you're filling every time you roll a damage number, or you're either filling or emptying, whichever way you want to rationalize it, doesn't matter. Filling and emptying are ultimately the same thing mechanically. So, in a game like Dune or Kane, you're fighting a thing, every time you hit it, you fill their owie clock. When their owie clock hits maximum, they're dead. That's ultimately all it is. HP's a clock, a talisman's a clock's a fucking clock, an extended text, it doesn't matter. You're either filling or reducing a bar by an amount of dice numbers. That's what they all are.
Yes, what I was saying is for Kane, the entire Sin is just a big clock, and because it's just a big clock, it loses substance on what the Sin can do, and it feels weird and noodly. Because I think they relied too much on the clocks to just be the Sin, as opposed to
I disagree
doing
with
stuff
that,
with
but
the
okay.
Sin. I mean, like literally in practice, I myself and Cass were both like, wait, why does Sin do thing in fight?
Right, but I think both of you are a little unfamiliar with what that game's trying to do, so I don't think you quite grokked it the way that the game wanted you to.
Don't use that word. Don't use that fucking word.
Listen. It wasn't a negative word until the muskrat stole it. All right, grok was a perfectly reasonable word.
It is tainted.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't tainted before. Anyway,
it's tainted now. That's all that matters.
Whatever, fine. The point is, I think both of you don't fully understand what the game is trying to do, which is fine because you're just not as familiar with it. But when I read it, I knew exactly what that game was trying to tell me to do. And yes, I haven't run Kane, but I know for a fact if I were to run Kane, I know how I would handle it. because it's just a extension of what the first edition of Apocalypse World is doing. It's just a modern interpretation of that. And Dune is also just a modern interpretation of that in a lot of ways.
All right, well, let's see you run Kane, motherfucker.
I mean, maybe.
About this, boy.
Maybe. I mean, I've ran Blades, and Blades does the same vibe.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
They're all pulling from the... Listen, if you just realize that an HP pool is ultimately just a big fucking clock, it all comes together.
Well, with Blades, it was a little different. So I guess you could argue that the characters in Blades had a clock, but most enemies had 1 point on the clock.
Yes, most enemies have 1 point on the clock, yes, but that's also true in Dune. Most enemies have 1 point on the clock until there's someone important.
That's true. Fair enough. Where was
and in Kane, actually Kane is the same idea, because they have the whole section about the minion style enemies. I forget what they call them, but they're like nobody guys. And it says the same shit, where they effectively have a singular point on their talisman. You hit them once and they die until you get to the sin, and then you have to track the talisman for the extended health. Same vibe.
True. Wait, what the fuck were they called?
They had like a...
Thread? No, not called threads.
No.
Strands?
They were
traces.
like
They're called traces. They're called traces.
Traces? Maybe. That sounds...
Yeah. They're called traces.
That sounds like it might be right. But yeah, the like non-sin guys. Other opponents.
Yeah. Fair enough. So, conflicts. Taking the place of more conventional combat systems, conflict in Dune is varied and incredibly versatile in that it encompasses just about any situation in which the phrase conflict could be relevant.
Yeah. With
the rules described in this chapter, the game has found a way to elegantly allow for anything from close quarters knife fights to large-scale warfare to social back and forths of heated debates to all feel relevant and achievable in the same generic system.
It's effectively... Yeah, what the game is doing at the end of the day is varying levels of abstraction, where the type of conflict dictates kind of how zoomed in or zoomed out you are on the overall camera focus, if you will, quote unquote.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to continue talking. My bad.
No. Yeah, like that's because I'm sure some people listen. The D&D heads, the Matts of the world, I don't know how else to put it, the Matts of the world, are going to read this and be like, I don't get it. And what you have to understand is that ultimately it is abstracting the idea of the fight and focusing less on the moment to moment and focusing more on a broader scale of actions, with the exception of dueling, but dueling is also abstracting things, just abstracting it in a slightly different way.
Yes.
But only slightly.
Yes. I mean, after I read the secondary thing that you sent me, it did make a lot more sense. So yeah.
Ultimately, the abstraction that the dueling mechanism is doing is it, instead of using your character as the primary thing you think about, it's using your weapon as the primary thing you worry about.
Yes. To achieve this, Dune makes use of a series of rulings, namely traits, assets, and zones. Assets, as we've spoken about, are basically more complex traits and are the tools that a character employs to complete
stuff
any
you
given
have.
task. Yes. It takes the shape of any item, vehicle, weapon, connection, ally, or piece of information that you could reasonably call forth to use in any situation. Obviously, depending on the type of conflict, some assets will be more useful than others. A hand grenade may suit you well in a warfare scene, but maybe less so during a debate between house representatives. Inversely, knowing a chome merchant is a vegetarian but sucks toes for breakfast, while interesting, probably won't offer strategic advantage during a knife fight.
Yeah, it
kind of is what it is.
Okay.
You're a vegetarian, but you suck toes for breakfast. I'm in. Sorry, I had to. I couldn't not. Zones are essentially highly abstracted areas of conflict, and they can range from, your literal arms and the sides of a person's like literally the sides of their body.
Yeah, zones. Okay, look. Ultimately, this is how you need to think about zones. Zones are locations, fictional locations that you move your assets in and out of. And what those zones are is dictated by the style of the conflict.
Yes.
That's all it is. Right? So if you're doing a warfare conflict, then zones represent large areas of a battlefield. If you're doing a duel, then zones represent different pieces of your opponent's guard and your opponent's body. So it's all about...
the reason why I said areas of conflict and not literal locations is because
it's not
in
always
something like
locations.
intrigue, a social clique, like a group of people that you know can be a zone, which is when it gets super abstracted.
The thing to keep in mind is that ultimately you are still moving your assets in and out of that zone.
Yes.
Right? That's the core of it is I have an asset and I'm moving and attacking things with that asset based on what zone it is currently located in, but located can be like social location or physical location or mental location. It can kind of be whatever. The GM will determine the zones when a conflict breaks out.
Mm-hmm.
Or tell you the GM will tell you the zones, I should say.
They will describe to you the zones. They have to as part of any given conflict.
It'd be very funny if they just were like, I'm just not going to tell you.
just none of your fucking business. At the start of any given conflict, the GM sets the scene. I can't speak today, and describes who goes first. The game states that this is usually a player, but that may change based on the situation.
Yeah, there's no initiative roll.
When the player completes their turn, they choose the NPC who will go after them, but they don't go next in combat. So if me and Josh are in a party together, I finish my turn and say, okay, Josh, you go after me, but he does not literally go after me. The GM then chooses an NPC who will go, and after that NPC, then I have queued up Josh to go. That makes sense. It was a little noodly when you read it, but it's not that hard in practice. Obviously, there are things within the turn, as we've talked about, the claim the initiative, which allows you to circumvent this by either letting you go again or letting someone else go and interrupt the enemy's NPC. But this is not always a guarantee, and enemies can do the same to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, once all the players have gone, then a new round begins, and it's pretty much common knowledge from there. During a conflict, players have access to two primary types of action. You can make a move or use an asset. There's only two.
There's only two in the entire game. Move or use asset.
There are sub-actions.
Effectively, move and use asset come down to move and attack. That's really what they are.
There are sub-actions that you can do, which is a weird way of wording it, but that's kind of the only way I can think about it.
I mean, I wouldn't even call it sub-actions. It's just when you do either when you move or use an asset, you have options within those two primary categories of what kind of move or what kind of asset you want to use.
For moving, I will give you that, but for use an asset, it gets kind of wild, the amount of stuff you can do.
Well, the thing about the use and this is something that I feel like would have helped this game a lot is if they had the game describes assets as things that your character has, whether they be intangible concepts like blackmail or tangible things like a knife. But there's also like kind of a hidden secret asset, which is your player character. Your character is also an asset. The book does not describe it that way, but mechanically speaking, your character is also an asset. So anytime you're doing something like gathering information or overcoming an obstacle, you are still using an asset, and the asset is your player character.
Actually, the game does specifically say this. In things like dueling, it specifically says, if you don't have weapons, you become an asset.
Yes, but what I mean is when it talks about the use an asset action, it doesn't necessarily call out the fact that your character can also be considered an asset. I feel like if they should have been a little more clear about it. In dueling, it kind of talks about it, but also in like warfare scenes, that also applies still.
That's actually, yes, that does apply in warfare scenes. You act kind of as the commander, and you
can move your character asset into a conflict zone as the commander if you want to, but you don't have to.
You don't have to, no. And when you do move your assets based on your location, your assets get bonuses off of you.
Yeah.
In the same way that you can get bonuses off them. It gets
in the same way that you can get bonuses off of assets that your character has.
Yeah. It gets a little wild.
I mean, things can definitely start to stack on top of each other after a while, for sure.
Yeah. Yes, sir. But other than dueling, which again is clear to me now, it wasn't upon first or second read, it's clear now. The other conflict types, except for maybe espionage, are pretty straightforward and easy to understand. And the only reason why I say espionage kind of isn't is because you can do espionage conflicts that are almost past tense.
Yeah.
Because you send, like, an espionage conflict is almost like a side quest. If you are a spy master and you send spies to go steal information, the game stops for a little bit, and then you do the sub-characters thing. You don't literally, like, do a mission as them. You have those characters, and you do this thing. And despite the fact that those characters existed in that moment, they might not retroactively, because the only person who might come back from this random-ass conflict is the original character. So it is kind of a retroactive, it happened in the past, but is also now thing.
Well, it can be happening in the current time if you're, like... You kind of do the thing where the movie cuts away to the side character is doing this other thing to ultimately get some information for the main character. So it doesn't necessarily have to be retroactive, but it often is going to be a little off to the side unless your PC is something like an Aspire Assassin, in which case your PC is probably going to be the one actively doing the espionage.
Yes, which is a thing that can happen. Yeah.
The thing that's particularly funny about espionage and intrigue too is that they specifically call out espionage and intrigue. The zones in those conflicts could be something as distant as different planets.
Yes.
Like you can move your hidden assassin guy from one planet to another planet, and that's allowed because you're moving between the zone. Planet 1 is zone 1 and then planet 2 is zone 2.
Yes. In both of those as well, like we said, zones could also be like straight up social circles, like not people in a circle talking, like your like favor levels with those people can be a zone. And you can move into and out of that zone based on how you are currying favor, not just with that group of people, but with other people around you. Not. So if you're close with, say, Chome merchants, and you have to cozy up to the Harkonnens, that will mean that you will have to move your favor away from the Chome into Harkonnen.
You have to move from the Chome zone to the Harkonnen zone to interact with the Harkonnens.
And then narratively, that means that you are losing some favor, some immediate favor or connection with the Chome merchants. It gets a little crazy. But before we get into any of that, as far as movement goes, you have two separate kinds of movement. You have subtle movement and bold.
There's actually three.
Oh, sorry. No, there's normal movement.
There's normal movement. The game is a little... This is another formatting thing. The game makes it slightly confusing and makes it look like there's two options. There is actually normal movement is an option. It just doesn't... It doesn't have normal movement in the bulleted list for some goddamn reason.
Yes. They talk about this in the dueling side thing. Yes, there is normal movement. normal movement, subtle movement, and bold movement. Normal movement allows you to take an action to shift from one zone to the other with no rolls required. You are just moving from one place to another. It can be as simple as you walking down the street. However,
if you're in like a skirmish, it could go from one end of the alleyway to the other.
Yes. Now, the two more complex versions of this are subtle and bold movement.
The ones you're probably going to use more.
Yes. Moving subtly is to do so in such a way that your enemy is, generally speaking, unable to respond to you. In combat, this is like throwing a feint or even making like a backhanded comment, something that catches someone distinctly off guard. Moving subtly also allows you to not only move to another zone, but assuming that you succeed, reduce the cost of momentum to keep the initiative to 0 in order to act again. Basically, what that means is, in the feint example, if you're in a knife fight, you throw a feint and then attack from a new direction, you can go again because the enemy was not expecting you to do that and therefore cannot react to you in time.
Gives you a free additional action is mechanically what it boils down to.
Yeah. Moving boldly is the opposite. You do so aggressively or hastily, specifically doing so to provoke a response from the enemy. Either by making them do something reckless or forcing them out of their position. Either way, it allows you to not only move a zone, but it forces enemy movement into another zone, either away from or towards you. When you're moving, typically speaking, you can only move to zones that are directly adjacent to yours. So if you think about there are 4 zones in a conflict, and they are organized in a diamond. If you are in the leftmost zone, you cannot jump to the rightmost zone. You have to go to the north or south zone specifically to therefore get to the east zone.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you can spend 2 points of momentum to move again.
You can spend 2 points of momentum to move again. Yes.
Which is effectively, you spend 2 points to give yourself another action. You have one action a turn by default.
By default, yeah. The use an asset action is
every fucking thing else.
Much more complex because it allows you to engage an asset, yourself included, to achieve some specific goal. Anything from shooting a gun to planting a bomb, driving a car, activating a thumper, pulling out some receipts on your phone because someone said there was an affair. Anything.
Right, I was gonna say, you're talking about physical things. It can also be like gathering information or jumping over an obstacle that's in your way. Like, it's really just everything else.
It's everything else. You might ask, what is everything else? Well, you use an asset action to attack, destroy or move other assets, overcome obstacles, like Josh said, like jumping over shit, resisting defeat, which is to say, once you have lost a battle, you can get back up for one last hurrah, using assets to gain information, using assets to create traits or other assets, or aid your allies. Each of those has a subheader, like paragraph. I'm not going to go into them. They're pretty self-explanatory, unless there's anything that you thought that you caught, Josh, in one of those that's worth mentioning.
I mean, no, I don't think. I think if we get into the specifics, it'll be boring. I think the main takeaway is that if we are to translate through our D&D lens, use an asset covers your attacks, it covers your defend, it covers your cast a spell, it covers your interact with an object, it covers your helping action, like all that kind of shit is what falls under use an asset. And so your character's going to move, and then you're going to try and use an asset to do something, and those are your only 2 options on a turn, which might sound boring, but because this game is more fiction first, using an asset is going to snowball into all sorts of other crap very quickly.
Yeah. And after that, we get to the conflict types. I'm going to ask you now.
Well,
we're almost 2 hours in. We're going to be here for a while.
I mean, real quick. When you're when you're trying to overcome something in this game, it's generally assumed that a singular die roll overcomes the problem. But like we said before, if you're fighting someone who is of more importance, that's when you get into that whole extended test thing. And that's particularly where the die rolls and the complications and stuff really start to stack on top of each other. And the different kinds of assets are going to change who is considered more important. So like in a knife fight, Baron Harkonnen is going to be overcome with a singular roll because he's a pudgy loser who can't walk. But in like a duel of wits intrigue type situation, Baron Harkonnen is going to require an extended test. So that's kind of how you will that's how you dictate like harder challenges, harder fights or whatever.
Yes.
Because I'm sure that question was coming to people's mind. I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. It's up to you.
I just don't see us getting through all of the conflicts and then the assets. We could reasonably spend an hour talking about dueling.
I mean, I hope not, but I suppose we could.
Okay. All right. So I guess we're going to do a part 3. We will cut it off here. And I guess I'll cry because I have to host the 3rd time in a row, which
it's all right.
Kind of is just evening the scales for Raw Steel.
You've done all the reading though, so it's fine.
True. I have done all the reading and all the note taking, so I have basically no homework next week. Fair enough.
Yeah. The main takeaway, I mean, I don't know. I fucking love this conflict system because it allows for you to have so many different types of characters where they can have their moments to shine and they can have their own, combats without combats in quotation marks without having to make a combat character. And so this idea of the like abstracting in and out and tackling different sorts of conflicts, I just think is a really good, it's a really elegant system. Once you get what they're trying to do, it just takes, there's a little bit of like a growing pain up front to understand what they're trying to get at. But once you figure it out, I feel like this is a really cool conflict system that has a lot of potential. And honestly, this singular part of the book, the conflict system, made me go from being like, this game is interesting to like, oh, maybe I do kind of want to run this. Like just this one part of the book, because I really feel like this conflict thing has a ton of potential. I will also agree that if you are a like D&D only player, this conflict system is going to be perhaps a little, you're going to have growing pains, I would say.
Yes.
But it's worth it if you can fight through the growing pains. If you just go work through the pain, Matt. What? Who said that? Who said that? It can be worth it.
Oh my god.
And yes, I think it'll be, I mean, next time we'll go over the specific types of conflicts. I think that will make it even more clear of the potential that the system has.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better because we can actually give each one more time and I can get a little more in-depth in my notes and like...
Especially because, for real, dueling is kind of my favorite one.
It is it's the coolest one. Like once you figure out how it works, it is the coolest one. Yeah, it's not close.
So... And then we can get into the GM chapter for all of 5 minutes.
Yeah, the super in-depth, really interesting, extremely thorough GM section that says nothing at all.
Yeah, it was pretty meh.
It was, bare bones, to say the least.
Yep.
But yeah. That has been us. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode. Follow us on your podcast platform of choice. And once again, if you could maybe consider shooting us a dono over at the coffee, I'd appreciate it. And that's been us.